Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter what time it is, no matter where you're at. I have no idea why I started hearing myself. Sorry about that. Anyway, um, uh, there we go. You guys can laugh it up. We're in the middle of changing some things up, so I do apologize if some stuff is a little all over the place. We are testing out how we're going to host in the future, and uh, unfortunately, that comes with some bugs, and that was one of them. So, anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, no matter what time of day it is. I want to welcome you to the Missouri Professional Training Partnership training that is being offered today. It is influential leadership. I'll get JaCorey up here in just a minute to kind of take over. But like always, we do have some housekeeping to talk about. So, let me pull this up. And as always, some important information for what's going on today. Today's free training is provided for free through the Missouri Professional Training Partnership. You can learn more about the partnership at moapco.org/training. The partnership does not ensure that this training is going to meet any continuing education requirements outside the state of Missouri. We do have it certified inside the state of Missouri, and the link for the training will be located towards the end. In order to receive a proof of attendance, you must sign in. You must sign that affidavit of training. If you don't, you're not going to get your certificate. Typically, give me about 3 days. I try my best to send certificates out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Sometimes that doesn't work, especially if I'm teaching in person somewhere, but that is our goal. So if you're watching the on-demand recording, and this should hopefully be recorded on YouTube and available for on-demand at that time, you can also use the affidavit of training. You can always find the affidavit of training on our partnership portal, which more information on that here in the next couple of weeks. We're revamping that as well, but we're excited to see what's going to happen. The link will be provided towards the end of the session, and you'll see it, I think, scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Do ask your IT department to whitelist my email address. That way it ensures that you get your certificate and any future correspondence from us. Also, just so you know, we do have these lovely challenge coin or patches. This is a patch, not a challenge coin. This one's Velcro, but this is the Missouri chapter logo. And then we also have the partnership logo. And then we have these lovely challenge coins as well. So if you were interested in purchasing any of those, head on over to our store. It's moapco.square.site. All proceeds for that go to support the training partnership and some of our scholarship programs. Just a couple of things as far as upcoming training goes. The next webinar is scheduled for May 20th, and we've got the Denise Amber Lee Foundation is partnering with us to provide domestic violence. It should be a really good one. If you're here in Missouri, May 29th through 31st, Missouri APCO is hosting the Let's Dish in Jefferson City, and that is kind of it's an event it's over 3 days. The first day being frontline, second day being supervisors, and the third day being management or administrators. But what that one is to identify cultural issues within the center, signs and symptoms of what's going on, what's going wrong, and how to address those to help with retention and recruitment. We will have a training webinar in June. I am working on that, but the next one that we have besides the one in May is July 24th. And I'm excited to announce that the Kyle Plush Answer the Call Foundation will be partnering with us to do a 1-hour session on the importance of answering the call and be yourself every day. So please come join us for those. I'm excited to see what's going on or how we can benefit from that. But I'm going to stop talking and bring in my friend JaCorey. so that he can start his presentation. So, everybody, please welcome JaCorey, and we will see you, or I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we're going to take a journey, and it's going to be a journey of discovery about influential leadership and how it goes beyond the title. This is going to be an interpersonal perspective, and it's going to challenge us to look at ourselves, examine some things within ourselves, and identify some things about ourselves that we could celebrate and that we could also work on as well. Here pictured are some of the most influential leaders of my life, some positive, some not so positive, but each of them have had a significant impact on my life. However, I couldn't go without thanking each and every one of you out there. Happy National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. The unsung heroes, we continue to make a difference daily, and I'm grateful for my public safety family. So let's celebrate this week and celebrate throughout the year what we're doing. A little bit about myself. I started my career by answering an ad in the paper. I rose through the ranks. It's been over a decade. I've worked behind the console, transitioned to the private sector, and now I am the founder CEO of Omni Public Safety Group. And I still continue to work as a telecommunicator part-time at Harris County East 11 in Houston, Texas. I'm a member of the Education Advisory Board for NENA, Texas NENA Commercial Advisor, and APCO International Commercial Advisory Council. My contact information is there, and I live by a very simple philosophy. If you aren't helping the person on the phone, you should be doing everything in your power to help the person that is. Oh my God, JaCorey, wait. Here's yet another session about leadership. If it's such a hot topic, then why haven't we gotten it right? The fact that we have to talk about this is kind of a bad sign. The fact that we need to have more tools and resources regarding leadership presents us with an opportunity as well as a challenge. And do we fully comprehend the magnitude and power associated with influential leadership? Some of our objectives today we're going to go through. We're going to define leadership. We're going to review the importance of followership. Those are common things that we know. We're going to describe foundational principles of leadership, explore your leadership identity and influence, understand the leadership landscape, define H3 leadership, and influentially leading forward. Influence defined: the capacity to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. If we ponder and think about that, if we take a moment, think of someone in your professional, personal life that you consider a good leader. Reflect on all the leadership characteristics that you associate with this person. You believe that they've only influenced you or that they have demonstrated leadership? I like to think the two are somewhat conjoined. Leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it. Dwight Eisenhower. Leadership is not a position or a title, it's action and an example. Well, there's so many wonderful leadership perspectives out there. And eventually I composed my own, and you can quote me on this. Leadership is intentionally or non-intentionally guiding and or influencing the thoughts and or actions of others by demonstrating knowledge, setting an example, and utilizing emotional intelligence formally or informally. Some of you out there are going to be formal leaders. You have the designated title, you have the responsibility and role, and some of you don't. And that does not mean that you cannot influence the culture of your center or the actions of the personnel within your center. Briefly, before we move forward, I think it's important that we highlight the difference between management versus leadership. Taking a look at these are very common, and we've seen this diagram before. These are not unfamiliar to us. And in order to properly explore leadership, we must acknowledge that there's an immense difference between leadership and management. However, there is a lot of crossover. There's an intersection where management and leadership actually meet. Those areas include our missions, goals and objectives, communicating, decision making, influencing, mobilizing resources, and of course, everyone wants results. Leadership defined. So, do you believe that some traits overlap? Believe that some of those traits are inherent, some of those traits are possibly learned, and some of those traits that you could actually work on. As we explore leadership further, let's attempt to define leadership and recognize there are a number of different leadership types, leadership styles, and leadership personas. So I'll go through the most common types, and I hope that you can identify with some of these. So, democratic involves everyone, shared leadership, authoritative, commanding, controls all things, and they dictate. Transactional relies on rewards and punishment. Laissez faire, they empower the team to do the task, and they trust they will have little feedback. And then, of course, transformational encourages people to strive toward a common vision to go above and beyond. Some of the many different leadership styles include visionary, mobilizing people towards a vision, coaching, develop people for the future, affiliative, they create emotional bonds and harmony. And then democratic, of course, build consensus through participation. Pace setting, expect excellence and self-direction. And then, of course, commanding, they demand immediate compliance. It has to be my way. And then the most common leadership personas. Let's see if you can identify with any of these. Captain, oh captain, the person in command of the ship. The communicator, a person who is able to convey or exchange information and new ideas. The conductor, a person who directs the production. The cultivator fosters an environment for growth. They nurture, they show appreciation. And then, of course, the champion. They celebrate the contributions of others and empower others. Can you identify with any of the aforementioned traits? Well, I hope that you can, because you are a leader. No matter where you are, where you're sitting, what you're doing, you are a leader. Think about yourself, those characteristics, those styles, those personas. They probably entail a combination of multiple elements, multiple characteristics. So I'd like for you to consider these 4 questions as we continue on our journey. Who I am as a leader, or who do I want to be as a leader? Where do I want to go as a leader? How will I get there? And who am I influencing as a leader, formally or informally? Who I am as a leader, or who do I want to be as a leader? Where do I want to go as a leader? How will I get there? And who am I influencing as a leader, formally or informally? With that being said, many of us suffer from leadership identity crisis. We suffer from imposter syndrome. We doubt our skills, we doubt our talents, we doubt our abilities, and sometimes we hide behind the mask. 68% feel they're overqualified, 74 feel they're underqualified, 85 suffer from low self-esteem, 70% experience imposter syndrome. But I want you to take a moment and stop. I want you to take a moment and think. Why do you think you're not where you want to be? What makes you feel overqualified? What makes you feel underqualified? Do you have the tools and resources needed to be in this particular designation or this particular role? More than likely, you are enough. More than likely, you have the tools and resources at your disposal. And if not, there are a number of resources out there to help you. Myself, Zach being one of them. If you need help, there are leaders that will help guide, mentor, and share with you. And I think it's time that we change the verbiage, change the narrative, and start by saying, as a leader, I'm successful because. No longer allowing your imposter syndrome, no longer allowing your identity crisis to occur. Today, we change the narrative. As a leader, I'm successful because. Well, we all can agree that to be a good leader, you must be a good follower. And so, followership is essential to any organizations. It helps a team carry out the vision. Even the best leaders will not be able to meet their goals without having followers. Followership can be best described as working independently, taking ownership of tasks, and is characterized by a willingness and active participation in the pursuit of organizational goals. Followership is simply defined as the capacity or willingness to follow a leader. Humility and followership do not equate to weakness, but on the contrary, it exemplifies extraordinary strength, versatility, and emotional intelligence. Followership is the greatest demonstration of leadership and often carries greater influence. Think about it. One leader, but an infinite number of followers, creating other followers, setting the example for other followers. The results are exponential. So, what is influential leadership? Now that we've defined influence, we've defined leadership, and we've also defined followership, let's talk about influential leadership traits. Leadership is only half the story. That followership is important as well. And your influence may come from being a follower or come from being a person who does not have the designated title of a leader. What is influential leadership? An influential leader is someone people look up to. You don't have to be the manager or director for them to look up to you. People respect and trust and trust them to guide them towards their desired results. That could be a CTO, that could be a trainer, that could be a mentor. Instead of coercing or forcing their team, the influential leader empowers them through example and action. An influential leader demonstrates integrity, self-awareness, most importantly, and they're agile. They're able to be flexible and delegate and communicate effectively. Influential leadership traits: a visible commitment. It's impossible for you to expect anything from anyone else if you're not doing it yourself. That visible commitment comes from simply being on time, being respectful of the chain of command, your ability to follow directives, your ability to provide supportive action towards initiatives that are set forth by your leadership team, or coming up with new initiatives to solve a problem. Number two, communication. Effective communication, we say it all the time that there's no communication in the communication center. It's vital that we're able to communicate feedback. We're able to communicate our strengths, our weaknesses, when we need help, and provide clear direction. Number three, deep self-awareness. To know yourself is the greatest and most beautiful thing. Understanding your triggers, understanding those things that bother you, understanding those things that drive you and motivate you are important. Also, understanding that about others comes along with your own self-awareness, so that we're respectful of other spaces, we're respectful of other people's time, and how we approach and communicate with them also comes with that self-awareness. Empathy, being able to display empathy appropriately is often a challenge for some people, especially in a culture where we're told to just dust it off and keep going. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to demonstrate empathy, and it's okay to lead with people first. Number 5, cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence falls under the diversity, equity, inclusion spectrum. Understanding that we have to be respectful of each other. Those differences make us uniquely beautiful. Those differences in that melting pot enable us to come together and form one formidable team. Understanding some things that are disrespectful or demeaning to someone else enables us not to do those things that would hinder or cause harm to them or disrespect them in any way. And then last but not least, your followership example. Who you are as a leader is directly correlated to who you are as a follower. And it's important that you lead by example. Don't ask anyone to do something that you wouldn't do. The 3 core pillars of influential leadership. Again, there goes that awareness word. So let's examine 3 main pillars of influential leadership. You being self-aware, having peripheral vision, quick thinking, a finger to the pulse. How many of you out there can probably relate, not managers or directors, but as supervisors, CTOs, or frontline workers, that you have probably the best finger to the pulse? The ability to communicate, and also owning decisions, being accountable for those things that we do, whether right or wrong or acceptable, taking ownership and owning those decisions that we make. Next, flexibility. Be flexible with your teams. Be flexible with your individual members of that team. View them as individuals. Be flexible with your work environments. COVID has taught us about that. And working from home or remotely or hybrid work, our work environments. But there's some of you that come in at the beginning of the shift in a blaze of JaCorey and you want your favorite chair. And you know what? Shift change is probably not the best time for you to be grabbing or vying for your favorite chair because you got there a little late. So it's important to also be flexible with the work environment until we get things settled, right? Systems and processes. New technology is emerging every day, which includes new policies and procedures. Those things are going to be constantly changing and evolving, and you have to be flexible. The mission of the organization, that has to be flexible. What we were working on 6 months ago, at our core, we still have the same purpose, same mission to deliver the best service to our citizens, but we may be able to elevate that, or we may have one particular component that we're focusing on during that particular duration or span. And then flexibility with yourself. How many of you can actually be flexible with yourself and not so rigid? When you make a mistake and see it as an opportunity, not as a downfall or as something that is negative. Having flexibility to view yourself as a champion and successful versus a failure or unsuccessful. And then agility. Agility, the ability to move fast in different directions. So changing directions, that could include something like consolidation. Systems and processes, again, we have a onslaught of emerging technology coming into our centers. Restructuring the organization. And that could mean something as simple as forming a welcome committee. It doesn't have to be a drastic restructure of the organization. It could be something as simple as the celebration committee. Doing something different and out of the box, introducing new concepts something we've never done. Adaptability. And so that comes with our ability to adapt to those changes. Speed. And then, of course, our efficiency. An obligation or an opportunity? Let's talk about the influence formula. So, as a leader, it's vital that you prove yourself. And the key to successful leadership is influence, not authority. With great influence comes great responsibility. So, number one, we have to accept the fact that you are a leader. What are some ways that you can prove yourself? Our character determines why we influence. Who we are on the inside is what matters. Do we manipulate or do we motivate? It's all about intent. Number two, dismantling leadership myths. What are some ways that you can earn relationships? Our character combined with our competency determines how we influence. There's some leaders out there that your team members probably believe that you can't even log into CAD. I hate to say it, but there are some myths out there, and you have the opportunity to dispel that. Helping others reach their potential. You ask how you can keep watering those seeds. We influence those who buy into us. Only those valuing and seeking what we demonstrate will volunteer to follow us. They choose to allow us to influence them based on how well we have developed our character and competency. If you're not a strong leader, I'm not going to want to model myself after you. If you're not leading by example, I'm not going to want to model myself after you. As a CTO, if you're rude and disrespectful, I'm not going to want to model myself after you. If you're habitually late, I'm not going to want to be like you. So we have to make sure that we are setting that example. And then surround yourself with good leadership and influence and help others reach their potential. We influence others when they want our influence. So in order for us to be influential and have this formula work, we have to be leading by example. The environment you work in is the environment you help create. I'll say that one more time. The environment you work in is the environment you help create. An influencer today. So the phenomena of influencer has taken way. It's just gone on this dynamic path. And influencers in social media are people who have built a reputation for their purported expert level of knowledge and expertise on specific topics. And they may endorse products, people, and organizations. Social media influencers may even be monetized. Yeah, they get paid on based on subscribers and viewers. I said all that to say, what are you an expert of? What are you working on that your knowledge level has become um, so proficient and you've attained knowledge and expertise, whether it be technology, whether it be suicidal callers, crisis callers, active shooters? What about just training? And what about the simplicity of adapting to the adult learner? What if you're an expert at reading people and building relationships? You have the ability at this point and this junction to be an influencer, and it doesn't mean that you have to be on social media. Your sphere of influence. I want you to use your influence wisely. You may not realize this, but you have the ability to impact others significantly. On a personal level, Their motivation, help them love what they hate. There may be some challenges and opportunities within the center. There may be some things that are going to occur, changes and challenges that you can help specifically aid them with that transition. That's the motivation, but the ability, help them do what they can't. Maybe there's that deficit, there's that lack of connection between the skill and the process. And so you help them by showing them different ways, by walking them through those processes. Socially, providing encouragement. And I know sometimes it's very difficult because there's no one there to encourage you or to cheer you on as the hero. And so you're constantly pouring out and you're constantly providing that encouragement. Please, please seek ways to pour back into yourself and to refill your cup. And in regards to the ability, provide assistance. When you see someone's failing, when you see someone's not reaching that benchmark, it's okay to nudge them and push them a little harder and provide assistance. Just don't push them out the door. And organizationally, you have the ability to change the culture. You have the ability to change your culture. One action at a time, one thought process at a time. I tell people all the time, one good morning at a time. You have the ability to do that. And then organizationally, you have the ability to change the physical environment. A kudos board, a thank you email to your team, a sincere one. People know when you're not being sincere. A simple email, a kudos board, a welcome board for new hires, or a celebration board, maybe even a birthday board. But you have the ability to take that dark, grim call center and elevate it. And there are many, many creative ways to do that. Your leadership identity is complex and dynamic. As you develop your leadership traits, you transition from being fundamentally aware of leadership identity to integrating leadership into the core of your being. So leadership no longer is what you do, leadership becomes who you are. Simply, leadership is not just what you are, it is who you are. And in different atmospheres, different environments, or varied instances, you adapt and exhibit the face or the facet of your leadership identity that's required for that situation. How many of you believe that you are more complex than those leadership traits that we discussed? Has your leadership identity changed in the last 3 years? Has your leadership identity changed in the last year? Can you reflect and think about who you were as a leader and now who you've become? Unmasking the truth, the law of the few. We talked about that identity crisis, and we talked about reaching a place and plateau of being authentic with ourselves. Unmasking the truth. When was the last time you took stock of your capital? When was the last time you examined the worth of those around you? Over a decade ago, Malcolm Gladwell wrote this book, and he described 3 different types of people who influence organizations and make change happen. So, mavens, they accumulate knowledge, they're super knowledgeable, constantly seeking out new ideas, and they share that knowledge. Can anybody identify with being a maven? Connectors, often people with resources, have many relationships, are excellent at networking and collecting and distributing information. How many of you are connectors. Then the salesperson. They're effective at persuading people to buy into things, especially unmet desire or the thing you didn't know that you needed. They sell an idea or a concept. They're able to convince others to adopt an idea by selling that idea. When an organization recognizes the value of these three influential roles, organizations have the opportunity to structure their teams around them. Again, I'll ask you this question. When was the last time you took stock of your capital, your own personal capital? Which role or which particular characteristics do you associate with most? The maven, the connector, or the salesperson? Now, there's going to be someone in the chat that literally is all three. They have to be a different type of person for each situation. During those situations, a different facet of their leadership appears. And they're able to be versatile and agile. They're able to demonstrate that particular characteristics and share with the audience or the target audience that's needed. Majority rules. So, as we begin to descend on the close, oligarchy, a small group of people having control of an organization or institution. Who really has the power in your center? Yes, HR, directors, managers hire employees. But it's the frontline telecommunicators that have to create a culture that welcomes these individuals, that supports these individuals, that aids these individuals in becoming the best that they can be, creating and fostering an environment that they want to stay a part of. Did you know your center has an elite group of influencers? Are you one of them? And are you using that power positively or negatively? For example, for Telecommunicator Week, are you delighted about the cupcakes or are you complaining that it should have been a cookie cake? Are you complaining that we've done the same thing year after year and we're tired of the same gift item each year? Have you come up with a new idea? And of course, when your boss tells you that we don't have the budget for that, are you coming up with creative ways that are inexpensive, creative and cost-effective ways to celebrate? Are you taking accountability and ownership? Are you one of the elite group of influencers? Leading from any seat. These are questions that we must ask ourselves. As you lead, as you exist, as you walk in your purpose, what do I want? Only you can answer these questions. What do I want? For what purpose? What are the roadblocks and stops, obstacles that may be in my way? Things that will prevent me from advancing? Even consider those internal things that are going to prevent you. Do you have an action plan? Step-by-step guide from point A to point B to navigate your way. And then who's watching me? We often fail to realize that each of our daily actions and efforts have a significant impact. The leadership landscape, as we talk about navigating the leadership landscape, it's important, I think, that we touch on this. Uncertainty is a part of the leadership landscape, and it never goes away. The leadership landscape comes with a number of different conditions, diverse dynamics. And it's going to include a number of different variables. Your leadership landscape is going to be very, very unique because in the workforce today, we have multiple generations. We now have 5 generations in the workforce right now. And leadership cannot be linear, neither can your influence. I want you to remember that you can lead from any chair, under any circumstance, and that your leadership may need to go through some grooming, may need to be adapted, may need some refining, but you continue to lead, continue to be accountable, and continue to do what you've been doing because the uncertainty is a part of that leadership landscape. People will never forget what you said. I'm sorry, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Always remember that, by Dr. Maya Angelou. So your intention versus your direction. Intention implies belief or an idea you plan to carry out. It's something you mean to do. I meant it. I did it. Intention may not be negative, but the impact may be and cause significant detriment to the organization, the entire team, and or individuals on the team. Direction requires action. Specific plans and actions will take you to a specific destination. The 4 elements of directing are supervision, motivation, leadership, and that big C, communication. Are you using your influence to support your team? So motivating your team, remembering that we have a purpose. We serve something bigger than ourselves. Mastery, are we working on our skills? And in doing so, are we encouraging others to be better at what they do? And then autonomy, having self-direction and trust within ourselves and within others that we can do the work, do our jobs collectively, cohesively, and do the job accurately and effectively. This is from Daniel Pink's Autonomy, Mastery, and Purpose framework. Within there, we find our desire, our drive, the discipline, and the dedication. I don't think any leader out there continues to be a successful leader without that visible commitment. Influence in the culture. Employing these vital elements of cultural influence will help you establish and maintain a culture worth bragging about so that those who choose to stay are productive team members and those who join can grow and thrive. Creating a culture of you belong. You don't have to be the director, the manager, or an official leader to create an environment of belonging, to create an environment where people feel safe and welcome. It's safe to speak up here. Everyone's opinions matter. If you're not ashamed to think it, we should not be ashamed to say it. Cicero. It is safe to speak up here, but being mindful that we're respectful of each other, respectful of those cultural differences. And then, of course, we have a purpose. Collectively, we have a purpose. Review the mission statement and evaluate if your actions are actually aligning with the organizational guidelines and the organizational mission. Employees that derive meaning from their work, 2.8 times more likely to stay, 2.2 times higher job satisfaction, 93% more engaged at work. I feel as if I belong at this agency and I can be myself at work. How can you measure your influence as a leader? Titles and tenure are irrelevant. True influence is evident and reflected in the action, positive behavior, the example that you set. Employee engagement is the ultimate measurement. Improved and consistent employee engagement and trust increase interest in career development activities. Hey, I think I want to be a CTO because you seem to enjoy it a whole lot. Demonstrating mutual respect and a cultural shift. We can go from good to great. Here's an influential leadership self-assessment. I want you all to take this opportunity to evaluate yourselves. Clarity. Do I articulate on purpose? Repetition. Do I repeat the vision? Reciprocal trust. Do I create a sense of security? Learning. Do I encourage learning? Do I seek learning opportunities for myself, for others? Expectations. Do I communicate the expectations? And can I adapt? Is there a clear course of action when these expectations are not met? And feedback. Do I communicate? Do I provide and solicit feedback? Is the feedback delivered in a timely manner? Is the feedback received in a receptive manner? Do I apply the feedback? Do I measure the results of the feedback application? And do I provide follow-up? So if you do get it right, are we encouraging? Are we supporting? Or are we course correcting? Positive toxicity phenomenon. One thing is true, people know when you are genuine. Toxic positivity is the pressure to only display positive emotions, suppressing any negative emotions, feelings, or experiences. Positive toxicity can diminish your influence and impact your credibility because, oh my God, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. No, it's not. We actually have a problem. Let's acknowledge it and deal with it. Demonstrating positive toxicity is still toxicity. Be mindful of this. Be mindful that we have to be authentic. We're some of the best detectives behind those consoles within those organizations. We can sense things on the other side of the phone. So what makes you think that we can't sense things with you live and in person with us? Be mindful that we're genuine in our actions, genuine in our speech, honest and transparent when we're communicating. Positive toxicity is still toxicity. Positively influencing others. Things that you need: humility, solicit and applying feedback, admitting your mistakes, seeking growth opportunities. Self-awareness, think before you act, take responsibility, act with integrity, be authentic, be consistent. Cultural intelligence, respect and embrace that diversity, put others first, respond ethically, demonstrate kindness, be unbiased. A visual commitment, put forth the best efforts, understand the mission, align with it, be courageous, have a knowledge of your standards and procedures. Flexibility and agility, listen and communicate, offer ideas, share knowledge, be receptive of change, and demonstrate high standards. And then, of course, your followership example, support your leaders, collaborate with your colleagues, celebrate the success of others, and do it often. And then, of course, apply yourself to continuous learning, pursue any opportunity to better and advance yourself. I'd like to share these 4 pillars as we close: mentoring, coaching, counseling, and shadowing. Mentoring, being accountable for the personal and professional growth of those you mentor. Whether you're a formal or informal mentor, words alone have magical power to inspire, influence, and motivate. A mentor is responsible for their growth. Be accountable to those that you mentor, even if it's informal. Coaching. As you develop those you coach, adapt a zero tolerance for negativity. Support the learner. Help them reach their goal. Provide training and guidance. Counseling. Set a standard of transparency as you work on the why of your problems and discover solutions. I'll say that again. Set a standard of transparency as you work on the why of your problems to discover the solutions. You may not have all the answers. You may not know everything, but together with whoever you are mentoring, coaching, counseling, you can work towards discovering solutions collaboratively. Shadowing. Enhance leadership development by raising awareness, increasing curiosity, and facilitating learning. This increases curiosity. This allows learners to see firsthand from a vantage point what you may experience day to day as a leader, and gives them an idea of what they would actually be doing if they stepped into that role. And that increases that curiosity, that increases that drive for knowledge and learning. How to strengthen your leadership influence? We've talked about these already. Understand yourself. To be a successful leader, you have to understand your own strengths and weaknesses. Develop a clear vision. I asked you earlier, who do you want to be as a leader? How are you going to get there? Build strong relationships, being able to communicate with others inside and outside the organization, being adaptable. We talked about flexibility and adaptability, and then continuous learning. Never stop learning. To successfully influence their organization, today's leaders must be versatile and able to adapt their leadership skills. These, again, are influential leaders in my life, and I'm grateful for each and every one of them. H3 leadership is how we're going to close this out. Be an encourager. The world has plenty of critics already. Excellence is not something we find, it is what we create through our actions. I encourage each of you to inspire excellence by being humble. Know who you are as a leader and who you want to be. Stay hungry. Know where you want to go. And as a leader, what fuels your passions? Always hustle. Build your team, execute your mission, and pursue excellence. Do whatever it takes to get there. Thank you for your time today. These are some resources. 3H Leadership, the Culture Code, the Influencer. My information is down there. John Maxwell's Influence Formula. Please feel free to reach out to me for the slide deck or any additional information or resources. It's been my pleasure to share with you all today. And I hope that you continue to influence your cultures positively and in an effective way that will advance our industry.
Well, thank you, sir, for everything that you just talked about. And then sneaking my photo in there a couple of different times. I was not prepared for that. So um, give it just a few minutes before we get off of here for any questions that may be posted into the comments section. There, if I didn't know if you were able to see the comments while you were in there, but there were a couple of conversational comments. So like this one. Ooh, look at that. So fancy. We're trying something new on this side, and I've never been able to do that. So, and then there was the other
Sandy,
one.
I agree with you. It's how you say things to people, your tone. When we're communicating, it is vital that we actually are meeting them where they are. Oftentimes, we don't meet people where they are, and we talk over them or at them, and we fail to talk to them. Thank you, Sandy, for that. Miss Barbara, we're going to send you an email so that you can, Zach, you want to remind her how she can get proof of her training?
Yeah, so actually, that's just what we were going to talk about real quick. So we are changing up how we're doing stuff right now, just because everything is kind of up in the air right now. Because I am trying to make it as streamlined as possible. So my ultimate goal is that from here on out, um, all of our stuff is going to be housed on YouTube ultimately on our YouTube channel. We're going to be utilizing this streaming service that we've got to kind of make it a little bit easier to talk to, at least between me and the other instructor. But with that said, your affidavit of training is the correct one will always be found on the partnership portal or the partnership catalog, whichever way you want to call that. And you can find that right there. That's the information there. But let me kind of show you where to go look for this stuff at. Because it's going to be kind of neat when we get it done. So right now you've got all this information. You'll notice now that you see a sign in and a sign up button up here. If you go ahead and fill that stuff out, it's going to take your name, your email address that you want the certificates to go to, your agency, and some demographic information. Once that's done, when we implement the new system, it'll be really easy to sign in. You just have to click the session that you're on, click the affidavit of training button, and then attest that you actually watched the training. That's kind of where we're going with this. I've still got to build it out a little bit more, but I'm on the way. So as far as today goes, if you go to session, you'll find all of our sessions. This is what it looks like. You can either use the search feature or just come find influential leadership. It will say all of the ones that we have upcoming. Just find the one that you want. So obviously influential leadership is today. You can use this link to come back to this video, or you can use the sign affidavit of training button to sign the affidavit of training. So it'll launch. Again, you're going to select influential leadership, put your name, agency, email, state, demographic information, and then submit. If you want to be notified about upcoming training, you can click this. You only have to do this once anytime you've ever watched our training. As soon as you click that one time, you get added onto our mailing list. So again, this is changing just a little bit as we move to the future, but I'm hopeful that this change that we're doing is actually going to be a lot more streamlined for you and make it a lot easier and user-friendly for you. So if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask or reach out to me, but do make sure that you utilize that affidavit of training, otherwise you're not going to get your certificates. So I'm not seeing any other questions, but thank you, JaCorey, and for the remainder of your week. I hope you have an amazing National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. Remember, this week is about you. It's about the job that you do, but it's also about education. This week is a great time to educate your family and friends and legislators, people you meet on the street, the guy at the grocery store who's checking you out, about what your job does, about what you hear, what you see, about the impact that you play in the community. So just keep positive and keep that in mind. But without saying anything else, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you again.